It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of A Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with Your Personal Bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. Those that have listened know this, that I do 2 shows a week. My first show is focused on the personal bank, Your Personal Bank concept, how to grow your money tax-free with guarantees, access it tax-free, earn positive arbitrage through the bank line of credit for, when you access the funds. And of course, if you listen to the last show, we have a new bank, so we're super excited with a lower interest rate and more access. 3.25% actually is their rate, and the personal banks that were, the dividends that are being paid by many of the companies are 7.5 to 6% dividends. Been paying that for the last 25 plus years. Never missed a dividend since before the Civil War. So look, if you're making 5.75 to 6% dividends and you're getting charged between 3 and 3.25% interest when you access the money through the bank line, what's your money doing? It's really quite simple. You're keeping the difference, and the difference is 2.5 to 3%, and that's positive arbitrage. And as I always say when I'm sharing this idea, I said the one big takeaway, here's what I don't want you to miss. Here's what I want you to get. And if you get one thing from this whole show, it's you're earning the positive arbitrage. You're keeping the positive arbitrage on money you spent. And look, if you're picking up 2.5%, let's say, positive arbitrage on dollars you spent throughout the year, in 10 years, and that's every year, single year, folks. See, 2.5% may not sound like a lot up front, but in 10 years, that's 25% more money, isn't it? And that's 25% money, and that's without any compounding, okay? That'd be 25% more money you'd have to spend or use or invest or do whatever you want. And it's all tax-free, by the way, so it's your money. Could anybody use an extra 25%? I think the answer would be almost unanimous. Yeah, absolutely. Do that 2 decades, 3 decades, longer in some cases, right? Folks, we're not talking about a little bit more money here. Folks that are using this tool are generating and keeping significant amounts of more money in many cases. So again, if you're not familiar with the Your Personal Bank concept, I'm going to encourage you to go to my website, yourpersonalbank.com. There's about over a year's worth of shows there. All of them have different titles of different topics I've talked about. Many of them are about your personal bank, how it works, common questions. In fact, the last show I was talking about 4 or 5 different clients that I met with just this past week who are now new clients and are doing this for various reasons. One was a CPA, one's a current bank executive, another was a retired couple in their 70s, another was a real estate investor, former engineer, and former naval officer. These are just all new clients just this past week, folks. Okay, so this works for a lot of folks for a lot of different purposes. Sometimes I joke it's a Swiss Army knife of financial tools because it's the same tool, but it can be used for so many different things and accomplish so many different things for so many different people. It's a rare occurrence when I run into somebody that this doesn't benefit, and often benefit in a very, very significant way. So if you haven't looked into this further, check it out, yourpersonalbank.com. Encourage you to do so. But again, those of you that have been listening to the show for a while know that I do the 2 shows a week. I try to focus on the personal bank concept more on the first show. And on the second, I try to take a bigger picture view of things, current events, economic news, money, political stuff, whatever it is things that impact our money, our ability to grow our money, access our money, and spend our money and pass it on to the next generation, right? I mean, money's not the only thing in life. In fact, money's not the most important thing in life, but try to get along in our society without it or with a limited amount. It can create a lot of stress, a lot of problems, or a lot of challenges. And we all know when it comes to, the number one cause of disease is stress. The number one cause of divorce is lack of financial issues, right? So money has a big impact on our lives. I don't think there's any argument about that. It's a big portion of what we are, how we feel about ourselves, our level of happiness, okay? It's all those kinds of things. It's the measuring stick, if you will, today of how well you're doing or not doing, right? the thing is, I guess what I was wanting to talk about today a little bit is it's no secret, again, those who were listening to the show, that I was getting increasingly frustrated from about the beginning of the COVID shutdowns in 2020 until early 21 about the political situation that was going on. And it wasn't so much, the personalities of the people or the particular parties or any of that kind of stuff wasn't what was bothering me. That, to me, that's kind of neither here nor there. I'm an independent. What do I care? That kind of thing. It was about the actions, the policies, the things that were happening that were getting me worked up. I even had some emails from some of you that said, hey, calm down, Ference, you're going to pop a vein. I agree with what you're saying, but calm down. And I guess I'm a little more sensitive to it because, again, those of you who don't know, I am first-generation American. My dad escaped from the Soviets from Hungary in the 50s, 1956, actually. So I'm maybe a little closer to it than most because I remember that growing up and just those kinds of things. My dad risked his life to come to this country. I served in the military. I was in the Army to partially to support, our freedoms. So these things are important to me. I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life. I've owned 4 different businesses. I'm in the process of starting a bank, a 5th business. Because I believe in the entrepreneurial, the land of opportunity that our country gives us, okay? And the independence and the freedoms that it affords are near and dear to me. And it's just that's important. And of course, like many other people, myself, was getting increasingly frustrated because I felt like, well, I don't think I felt like it was. I saw it happening, attacks on our freedoms. And increasingly, I was getting angry and frustrated about that. But since, I would say, January of this year, 2021, I've become increasingly encouraged by what I see. And the reason is because my faith in the American people is becoming more and more restored by the week. And I'll say this. I had a kind of an embarrassing experience today. And I want to give a shout out to Fired Pie. That is a restaurant chain. It's actually, I know the owner, Fred, and I go there quite often. It's one of my favorite places. If you've never been there, it's a healthy pizza type place. You go in and you order the toppings that you want and that kind of stuff. It's really cool. So it's like fast. It's fast but healthy. And I like it. It's one of my favorite places to go. So I was on my way to a client meeting. Haven't met a lot of people in person yet. Obviously, COVID, for about a year there, I literally met 3 or 4 people in person the entire year. That's starting to become more common. So I had a client meeting, and because I've been working from home pretty much exclusively, I worked from home a lot prior to COVID, but now, it's been exclusive, without exception, right? So I ran out the door and I was gathering my stuff and everything, going out the door, and I grabbed some lunch on the way to this appointment and realized I ordered my pizza, all the toppings, all this, and I usually keep I have a bag with my laptop bag I carry with me. I usually keep my wallet in it. And I suddenly realized I forgot to bring my wallet. I left it at home. Now, it was late lunch. I was starving. By the way, I've suffered with hypoglycemia. It's gotten a lot better because of diet and things like that and exercise. But if I go too long without eating, I'll get really, really wicked headaches. And again, it used to be much worse than it is today. But I was kind of starting to get on the verge of that. I knew I was starving. I wanted to grab something to eat before I went to this appointment. And I was a good 20, 30 minutes away from home. And if I went back, I would have been very late. I didn't want to be late to this appointment. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've ordered this pizza. I'm absolutely starving. I have no other food. I have no money. I have nothing on me because I forgot my wallet. And I think the person there, she saw that this was genuine, that I wasn't trying to scam anybody or get a free pizza. And I was visibly frustrated and embarrassed. And she goes, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm like, really? She goes, no, really, don't worry about it. You know, it was a simple act of kindness, obviously, but it actually saved me at that point. And it was something because I would have gone to that appointment anyway, and then I would have been suffering afterwards. You know, I really appreciate it. It's that act of kindness. It kind of restores your faith in people. You know, when those little things happen, it makes a difference. And I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to Fired Pie and Fred. Thank you. When I see you, I'll be back in probably next week, and I'll see him and I'll offer to pay for that pizza, of course. I don't want to take advantage. It's just, in my no moment of need, I got a free pizza out of the deal. Wasn't even looking for that, and I really appreciate that. So, hey, if you haven't been to Fired Pie, I'm going to encourage you to check it out. They're really good. One of my favorite places, like I said. Or if you're thinking about a place to go grab something to eat, they're all over Phoenix. I don't know. There's over a dozen locations. I know that much. So check it out. So I really encourage you to do so. But it's that kind of thing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've been seeing more and more people stand up and say, you know what, enough's enough. These attacks on our freedoms, on our rights, our freedoms, is not right. This is not the kind of country, this is not the kind of society that I've lived in, that I want to be a part of. Again, I've shared this. The decisions that we have to make going forward really are about, and this is what we need to educate people on, help them understand, is do we want to continue to be a society of opportunity, or do we want to change to a society of dependence, where basically we're dependent upon the government to give us everything, or give us our income, give us our benefits, give us our whatever. Now, the problem with that, I don't think I need to educate anybody, but maybe we do. What you need to understand is dependence. If you go into a situation where you're dependent on something or dependent on someone, it's like when you're young and you're a child and you are dependent on your parents or your family or whoever you're living with for, well, everything, food, clothing, housing, all of it, right? And if you have a good parent situation or a good family situation, that can be great. And if you have not such a good one, it can be really bad. And the problem is the dependent is, dependent on the person in charge. Look, do you want to be dependent on a nameless, faceless, bureaucratic agency? Does that sound like a good idea? We're going to talk about that further in the next segment, and also how this impacts our economy and our money. So stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And before I forget, I've been sharing this in every segment since the last show, is we have a new bank. We have a lower interest rate, 3.25%, which gives us more positive arbitrage on our personal bank policies. Again, we have policies that are paying 5.75 to 6% dividends, have done so over the last 25 plus years, never missed a dividend since before the Civil War. Now we have bank lines of credit between 3 and 3.25%, and depending on your credit, if you have good credit, you can get up to 100% access. So between 95 and 100% access of your money. And when you access those funds, you keep the difference. That's positive arbitrage. So your positive arbitrage today is going to be between 2.5% and 3%. Look, if you want more information on it, I'm going to encourage you a couple of things. Stay tuned. Our next show, I'm going to be interviewing one of the bank executives of our new bank and sharing more details about how all this works and how it dovetails and ties into the Your Personal Bank concept. Don't miss it. It's going to be exciting. But if also, you can go to yourpersonalbank.com and check out any of the previous shows and how this works, how this concept works, and how it can really impact your financial picture and improve it significantly. Okay, so really encourage you to do that. But today we're really talking more about the bigger picture things. And I want to offer some encouragement to what I call freedom-loving Americans. Look, I don't care what your background is or what you look like or where you came from or what your political beliefs are or anything else for that matter. I really don't. And frankly, it shouldn't matter. What I care about is, do you want to be part of a society that we live in currently that's the land of opportunity, or do you want to change this to a land of Well, being reliant on someone else or something else, dependence, if you will. You want this to be a society of dependence, where you're dependent on the government for, well, your benefits and maybe even your income. Look, I understand if someone's receiving free money and getting stuff from the government, you get checks in the mail and various things like that. Everyone likes getting a check in the mail or getting money. Okay? I mean, that's human nature. Okay? I understand that. But it takes a little bit of thinking, introspection, to understand and ask the question, do you just get the check and say, oh, goody, and take it down to the bank and deposit it and spend it and do whatever? Or do you give a moment's thought about where did that money come from? See, one of my concepts, thoughts I've been sharing now for quite some time, and I've been drilling it in repeatedly because I think it's so, so very important. And it's this. When you get, next time if you're one of those people who gets a check, all right, I want you to think for a minute, just a minute, and think about where did the money come from? You see, if it's a check from the government of some sort for whatever it is, and you may qualify for it and all that, I get all that. But if it's a check from the government, where did it come from? Well, the initial answer would probably be, from the government. And my response to you would be, no, it isn't. And the reason it's not really from the government is because the government has no money. None. Nada. None whatsoever. How does the government get money to then give it to you? Again, the answer is quite simple. The government either taxes somebody, takes it from someone else, or they print more of it to give to you. Now, why should you care? Heck, you got a check. You got money, and you can spend it however you see fit, basically, right? Why should you care? Well, there's a very common misconception out there in our country, which is sad, and unfortunately it's basic financial literacy, a lack of basic financial literacy. Because the government has no money, the government produces nothing. The government benefits our economy in no way whatsoever. They don't. Yeah, I love the way they say create jobs. The government doesn't create jobs. The government may pass a law that would make a certain type or jobs more favorable job creation climate. Okay, so it's indirectly. But the government does not create jobs. And it frustrates me to no end when I hear politicians talking about, well, we're going to do this law and create more jobs. No, you're not. You don't create a single job at all. And you've never created a job in your life if you've just been a politician. Yet they think they have, but they don't. They just don't. Businesses create jobs. Okay? And when you increase taxes on whomever, I'm not saying we shouldn't pay taxes. What I'm saying is if you increase them, that means that business or that person, that entity, whatever it may be, has less money to create more jobs or more opportunity or expand their business or improve products or lower the price of products or any number of things. See, the thing you need to understand is when taxes go up, particularly say on businesses, or business owners, okay, then several things happen. I mean, the businesses or business owners don't pay the tax. I mean, they write the check. I get it. They write the check to the IRS, but they don't really pay the tax. Their consumers do. And their consumers pay the tax in a number of various ways. One obvious way is they raise the price of their product or service, so the consumer pays for it directly, don't they? In extra costs, okay? Or the company or business will reduce the quality of the product. They'll take or reduce the amount. Perfect example is take food. A simple example. Have you ever noticed packaging on different various food items gradually continues to shrink? Things are smaller. It's a small incremental. It's like boiling the frog. I mean, if you throw a frog in a pot of hot water, the frog's going to notice immediately and jump out. But you can put a frog into a pot of lukewarm water, and if he's happy, he'll stay there, and you can slowly increase the temperature of the water until you literally boil the frog. And that's the same process that food packaging companies do with our food. They, over time, they change the packaging around and make it look like you're getting more, as much as you were getting before, but there's actually less quantity. Why do they do that? One, increase profits, or two, if taxes are increased, they've got to pay more tax. They're either got to increase the price or reduce the amount or reduce the quantity or the quality, right? So you pay for it in those ways, either directly by increased prices or less quantity or less quality. So the point is, whether you actually pay the tax or not, you're paying for the tax, okay? That's the key thing you need to understand, all right? So my point is, you should care about where the money comes from, and if it comes from the government, which has no money, creates no jobs, generates nothing for the economy, it should be something you should reject. Now, if you're receiving these benefits because you qualified for them, what should you do? Well, the answer is look for ways to get off of those if possible. If at all possible, look for ways to reduce or get off of those benefits for the greater good. And not only for the greater good of all of us, but for the greater good of you, the one receiving it. And I'm going to stay tuned in the next segment because I'm going to talk about exactly why it would be beneficial to you. So stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And hey, we have a new bank. We're excited. You've heard about this in the previous segments. If you haven't contacted me, let me know. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com for more information. It's a lower interest rate, higher access to money for folks with good credit. So if you have a personal bank policy, by all means, contact me for more information. If you want to learn more about this, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. Again, today we're talking more about, I guess really what I'm talking about is personal responsibility, self-reliance. And I'm talking to people who think that dependence is the way to go. A dependent society, I mean by that. Again, we've been in a society of the land of opportunity. We've been a society of opportunity. Nothing's guaranteed, but you have the opportunity to accomplish whatever you want. If you're willing to invest the time, energy, effort, money, whatever it is that you need to do to accomplish what you want to accomplish, generally speaking, our society gives you that opportunity to do so. I mean, we've been known as the land of opportunity throughout the world for centuries. And we have a certain segment of our population who has decided or thinks or been taught that dependence is the better route. Now, the first thing I want to say is a note of encouragement to those that are getting frustrated. I firmly believe that's still the majority and significant minority, the minority that wants dependence. I think they're being very loud right now, and many of their leaders and such happen to be in charge, and they're gaining they've gained a lot of political power as a result. See, here's the thing. If you're listening to someone who's supporting the idea of, well, in essence, government this, government that, government can handle this, government can take care of you, why, again, I get people to think, why do you think they're doing that? Do you think it's because they're benevolent and they just want to give all this stuff to you and they're just amazing, awesome, incredible people? In some cases, that may be true. But more likely, in most cases, people do things for a reason. And I know it may be a little cynical, but let's face it, that's human nature. Most political leaders and stuff that are doing these things are supporting this dependence society, encouraging people to depend on them, basically. They're doing it primarily for power. Money, power, influence. That's what politicians want and crave. Okay, generally speaking. So, do you want to put your faith and confidence and your future even in someone you've probably never met, probably will never meet, who is doing this so that they can gain power primarily? I mean, let's be real. Is that what you want to put your faith in? Look, if that's what you want, fine. And that's all you want in life, okay. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with you. And I think it's very destructive, not only for the entire society and other people that are supporting you, because you're not supporting yourself. Remember, you're getting money from the government. And the government's taking it from someone else or printing more of it, which creates more inflation. By the way, inflation means everybody pays more for everything, including those that are receiving the benefits, because the cost of goods and services go up, okay? More dollars chasing items means everything costs more. We're seeing that already this year. The price of meat, the price of corn, the price of gas have already gone up. So this will affect everyone because guess what? We all eat. Most of us travel some, use some gas, and most of us live in a house or something like that that requires heating and cooling and electricity and such, which we end up paying more for all those things, right? My point is, whether you're receiving the benefits or not, you're going to pay more. Now, why should you care if you're one of those that actually receives the benefits? Well, folks, it really comes down to self-reliance and being proud of accomplishing things for yourself. Here's what I mean by that. You know, most of us have been involved in some type of activity, whether it's sports or fine arts or whatever it may be in school, or maybe at some other point in our lives, or schoolwork, maybe something that we've done or we've accomplished in our lives, or maybe it's a job or we get a raise, whatever it may be. And you accomplish something good, okay? And you get some positive feedback for that, right? Is that something you feel good about? When you have a feeling of you've accomplished something, right? Is that a good or a bad feeling? In other words, if you earn money for yourself, for example, versus somebody giving it to you, do you feel better about earning it for yourself or accomplishing it for something you did for yourself? Or do you feel better when somebody gives it to you? See, human nature, we're built to accomplish things. And we get a better sense of self-worth and accomplishment when we do something positive. See, folks, this society of dependence is extremely, extremely destructive. And for the person who relies on that, they become less than a person, less than a human being, because they're relying on someone else. Stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to finish up on this thought, so don't miss it.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to Your Personal Bank Show. We're going to wrap this up today. And again, if you missed it before, I'm going to encourage you to contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. We have a new bank, lower interest rate, 3.25%, and more access, 100% access to the cash value for those with good credit. Again, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. Those that are clients will know exactly what that means, and I know they'll do so. I've already been reaching out to clients as fast and furious to get them the better rate, more positive arbitrage. Bottom line is getting the 5.75%, 6% dividends on the money as it growing. Access it, 3.25%. We can get as low as 3 sometimes, which will give you anywhere from a 2.5% to 3% positive arbitrage on money that you spent. Folks, that's the key. That's the takeaway on how Your Personal Bank works. So again, if you want no more information, go to yourpersonalbank.com, listen to any of the previously recorded shows, share with you how this works, or contact me. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Now, today we're really talking about self-reliance, really, again, are we going to be a society of opportunity, or are we going to be a society of dependence? And this is near and dear to my heart. This is a part of my story that I haven't shared a lot with people. I've shared often, where my dad escaped from Hungary, from the Soviets, came here. He was a political refugee. He went through the process. He was a legal immigrant. He got his citizenship, got his college degree, met my mom, got married, had kids. I'm half Hungarian. That's where Ferenc comes from. Think of Terence with an F. That's what I always tell people. It's a good Hungarian name. But sadly, just before my 7th birthday, my dad was tragically killed he died in a drowning accident. It was not expected. He was early 30s. It was truly one of the most impactful things I've ever experienced in my life. Unless you've dealt with the loss of a loved one like that, a parent when you were young maybe, or say a spouse you've been with for many years or decades even, it's hard to describe. It's impossible to describe. You can't, and I can't tell you how many times over the years I've met somebody who's faced similar tragedies, and there are no words that I can share with that person. All I can do is share with them my experience and say, look, I understand. I've been there myself. This was something that definitely impacted my life, my relationships, all of that for a good 20 years, like significantly. I struggled with confidence, for example, tremendously so. Even in high school, even in college. It was high school. I went all the way through high school without asking a girl out on a date. I refused to do so because I wouldn't. I didn't want to face the rejection. I didn't have the self-confidence. Now, fortunately, I did date quite a bit, and what it was, I became friends with various people and girls, and then gradually we would start. It just kind of happened naturally. Start to date. And I guess looking back on it, it was subconsciously my way of avoiding rejection. I wanted to, I knew pretty strongly how she felt, and a lot of times they would ask me to get together. So because we had become friends, right? But it did. It impacted my life, and I've talked about where after high school I got in the military, and for me at least, basic training was a major turning point in my life, particularly with confidence. And what happened was, it's physically demanding, but more importantly, anybody who's been in the military understands that basic training in particular is more mentally demanding. I mean, you have these drill sergeants that are screaming in your face. It's 4 a.m, you're dead tired. They're just doing things just to drive you, to get under your skin and to try to get you to snap. That's their job. That's their goal. That's their purpose. And I can tell you myself, I had this short little drill sergeant that he had his Smokey the Bear hat, and he'd be screaming his head off, saying every obscenity in there you've ever heard of, and he's hitting his hat on my chest as he's yelling at you, right? And for no real reason, and I just wanted to deck the guy. And he's this little guy, dude, and I knew if I just wailed on him, he'd probably go down. But I also knew if I did, I'd probably be in Leavenworth breaking rocks for, the rest of my time. So you just bite your lip, you bite your tongue, and you take it. And you learn from that. What I learned is the military taught me that I was capable of accomplishing far more than I thought I was capable of, both mentally and physically. It pushed me beyond my perceived limits at the time. I know sports can do that and other things can do that too, but for me, it was the Army. That's what did it for me. That was a major turning point. And what I realized at that point was, look, I had come from, my dad was an engineer, an acoustical engineer. We were upper middle class, lived on a lake, all that kind of stuff. And then when he died tragically and suddenly, didn't have a lot of life insurance or anything like that at the time. My mom was a school teacher, but stay-at-home mom at that point. I was the oldest of 3 kids. I was 7. And suddenly, we went from upper middle class to barely middle class. Okay? We actually moved to a farm, raised all our own food, frankly, so we could eat. My mom went back to school, got a master's degree so she could get a raise. But, school teachers, particularly back then, you go back a few decades, just didn't get paid that much. In her first couple of years, she was like a substitute, then a permanent sub. Then she finally got on a full-time teaching job. And these were smaller country schools, rural schools, so they didn't pay as well typically. So we struggled. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to work so that you can eat. I've been there. And I also know what it's like from losing, like I said, losing my dad was for me a scarring experience. Growing up where I did, I grew up in a small town in Missouri. Everybody we knew was married couples. I was the only one without a dad. In fact, my entire Boy Scout troop, I was the only Boy Scout without a dad. And so they would have the dad-son campouts, whatever. I would stay with the scoutmaster because I was the only one without a dad. Now, when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, stuff like that, those are scarring, impactful experiences, okay? And I many times felt very sorry for myself, and there was many times where I was like, why me? Why am I having to put up with this? All those kinds of things. I went through all that. So I did lack a lot of the confidence and things like that. So I understand what I'm trying to say is challenging times makes people better, or they can make them bitter. I chose the latter. I chose to become better. I understand the appeal of just sitting back and saying, you know what, life has dealt me a blow. It's not fair. It's not right. I scream to God, why me? All those things. I've been there. And, many of you that are listening probably can relate. You've had similar experiences at some point in your life. Okay? And it could have been that I would just said, you know what, I'm going to rely on other people. And, if the government's going to send me a check, if I'm, don't do anything, like it seems like pretty much today it's easier to do than ever. I could have fell into that. I see that, and I see the appeal of that. I guess what I'm trying to say is I understand. But I also understood, and like I said, the military gave me that confidence, realizing, you know what? I want something better for my life. I don't want to stay in this cycle. And that's where I feel really bad for people when I see folks who can't see anything better for themselves. They see no opportunity, right? They don't see an opportunity for anything, a potential of anything better. So they're settling for what they've got, and they want to, and if it's, like I said, they can just sit back and get paid or whatever, and they're just going to do that. And there's a certain number of people that are going to do that. But again, that is very demoralizing and very destructive to the human spirit. We're not built that way, folks. And what I want folks to understand is our country, our economy, individual people. This country, this economy was not built on people being dependent. In fact, almost everybody runs around with these smartphones, right? Do you think that if we just had did any communist country basically create the smartphones and all the technology and all the things involved with it? Think of what technological advances have come from countries that have overwhelming dependent societies where the government basically takes care of everything. Little or nothing, right? Very limited. The very things, they're luxuries really, if you look at people around the world. The fact you even have a phone is a luxury, okay? It's a mini computer in your hand, right? And you probably live in a nice place and you drive a decent car and everything else that would put you in the upper probably 2-3% of the world's population, even if you're on welfare. If you're considered on welfare in the United States, you're considered wealthy in most parts of the world. So you're incredibly blessed, okay? But do you want something better? And looking around, see, that's a part, I guess in some respects, like I said earlier, sharing my story a little bit, I can understand where somebody could just sit back or lay back and say, you know what, life's dealt me a blow. It's not fair. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm mad at the world, all those things. And I'm just going to take what I can get. I get that, but at the same time, I don't get that. Because you can look around and say, wait a minute, there's so many things. It's almost overwhelming, frankly. I know coming out of high school, I couldn't decide what to do. It was part of the reason I joined the Army, because there were so many opportunities I couldn't settle on anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was too many choices. It was overwhelming. And it took me a while to settle on what I wanted to do and what I was good at, and then hone that skill. Here's the advice I would give to anyone who's listening that's willing to listen to this. And particularly if you're a younger person or if you're not so young. Find something you have a passion for. And then do that to the best of your ability. And then hone that ability and make it better every day, every week, every month, every year. Get better and better and better. Folks, the money will follow if you become great at something. That's how our economy, that's how our society works. And probably more important than all of that is you will feel really good about yourself because you actually accomplished something. You stepped out of that hole of despair, that hole of frustration, that place. I've been there, okay? When I lost my dad, it was tough, okay? But you can step out of that. You can do something, accomplish something. There's greatness in everyone. You just got to find it. And find the people that'll encourage you. We're a combination of the people we hang out with and the books we read, okay? Garbage in, garbage out. All that's true. Change the input. Change the people you're around. And if people around you are not encouraging you, change the people you're hanging around, folks, if you want something better. And stop depending or looking for someone else for salvation or going to take care of you or any of those other things, including our government. Okay? They're not good at it. Be something better. Accomplish something better. Become proud of yourself and do something with your life. And the more people we have do that, the better our society will be, the better our economy will be, the better our government will be, and the better our leaders will be. We'll expect more from them too. So, as always, I'm going to encourage you to step it up. Encourage people around you. The best is yet to come. And as long as it's still on our money, I'm going to keep saying this, in God we trust.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and writers may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.